Rome was not built in one day, but they were laying bricks every hour. We all want instant gratification or instant success, but most of the times, success is the result of persistence. We see on Instagram, with a flick of a finger, a 12th pass student becomes an airline pilot sitting into an airline cockpit. It would be great if it worked that way, but let's be a bit realistic. Let's talk about how much time it really takes to become an airline pilot. The real timeline. The pilot training is not easy. It involves a lot of challenges for 12th pass or a newly graduated student who's willing to get into that airline cockpit. Not planning a timeline for pilot training can potentially affect pilot career for years. After my 12th, I started my pilot training back in 2006. Aviation was booming and it was all great. At the same time, I had no clue how to plan pilot training. Neither I had anyone to guide me how to go about the steps. Nonetheless, here is what I have learned through years of experience and struggles. So let's get started. Hello CNTAA aviators, I am Captain Neha Thakre, a captain on Airbus A320 and a mentor for aspiring pilots in India. I share my experience and what I have learned as a pilot in past decade with you so that you can make better informed decisions for yourself. When you decide to begin with pilot career, this is the timeline that I would encourage you to follow. Should you take lesser time, that's great, but this is the median timeline. I have categorized these steps into 5 main phases of training for easier understanding. Phase 1 is groundwork. Phase 2 is flight training. Phase 3 is pilot license issuance. Phase 4, first job as a pilot. Phase 5 is the airline cockpit. Now let's get into time taken for each of these phases. Before we jump into the timeline, I will be referencing terms from How to Become a Pilot in India video on this channel. So if you haven't watched that already, then link will be there on the top right corner. Go watch that one and continue it from here. Phase number 1. As you decide to start your pilot training, first thing that you do is to start with studying for DGCA exams. Along with that, you apply for DGCA computer number, do the EGCA registration for class 2 medical, get class 2 medical done, then get an appointment for class 1 medical. DGCA exams are now on demand. So every month exams are conducted. So if you are planning on 5 DGCA exams, then consider 5 to 6 months for passing DGCA exams. In case you are planning on doing flight training abroad, you should be able to pass all the 3 subjects in 3 months. Average time for completion of first phase of pilot training is about 4 months. As you finish this phase, you do have good knowledge about aviation, your concepts are clear, and now it's the time for skills training. That brings us to phase 2 of pilot training, which is flight training. Let's not be confused between flight training and pilot training. Pilot training is a broad term which includes everything about becoming an airline pilot, and flight training that I am referencing here is 200 hours of flight experience that is needed to be acquired in order to get the DGCA CPL. This is primarily skill-based training. Flight training takes about 14 to 18 months if done from India and about 12 months if done from USA or Canada. For those flying from abroad, we'll also need to fly in India for about 8 to 10 hours for GFT day and night, which should take less than a month. Average time for flight training could be considered as 15 months. As you are done with this, it is the time for the third phase that makes one significant milestone in the pilot career. That is issuance of Indian DGCA CPL. It requires certain paperwork. This paperwork all the way to issuance of CPL requires about 2 to 3 months. All the documents such as logbook, medical, DGCA exam results, etc. are to be provided to the DGCA. On basis of this, DGCA issues commercial pilot license. Now onward, you are a commercial pilot. That means you are now eligible to fly for a compensation or salary. But wait, we didn't start pilot training just to get a CPL. We all want to fly as an airline pilot. Now we move into the phase 4, and that is first airline job hunting phase. I'll explain you this part by giving you my own example. Story of getting to the airline cockpit as a pilot. I completed my CPL in 2008, and soon after global economy was struck by financial crisis. Most airlines were struggling to survive financially during this period. As a result, pilot demand plunged drastically in 2008. I didn't even get a chance to apply for any airline exam until 2011. There were no openings. Later that year, airlines started to recover and expand. In 2011, I got to appear for an opening of Jet Airways, but the company decided to cancel that induction program. Reason, you might ask. One airline named Kingfisher declared bankruptcy in 2012. All the experienced pilots from Kingfisher joined other airlines, and there was yet again no demand for fresher CPL holders like myself. That was the most difficult time in my life. I was at a point of no return. Money for pilot training was spent already. I was a pilot with only a license to show for. I still remember that time, and the struggle was real. I continued studying, job hunting, and teaching in the ground classes that I started back in 2008, which today is CNTAA, the Pilot Ground School. During this period of time, all that helped me was the persistence. I was teaching morning 8 to night 9. I would come home and prepare presentation slides for the next day's teaching and look for pilot jobs before sleeping, be it Coast Guard or the private planes companies. They all had my CVs in the mailbox. Back in time when I finished my pilot training, aviation was relatively at a smaller scale in India than what it is now. Couple of years went by like this, and I got my first real opportunity to appear for an airline exam in 2015. I gave everything to this opportunity. It had to work. Results came. I passed, and in 2016 I was inducted. In 2016, that is the same year, I was released as a first officer after airline training. Continued with the same persistence, and in 2019 I became a captain just in 3 years. And here we are today with over 4,000 hours on Airbus A320. Would I change that past? No, definitely not. That struggle taught me life and made me who I am today. This was my transformation flick of the finger from Instagram trend. This is not to brag about my success, but to inform you of the struggle so you learn from it. I am not saying that it would take 6 years before you land on a job, especially today when aviation is growing at such fast pace in India, but it could still take a year or two before you could get your first opportunity to apply for an airline opening. As you get an opportunity, I'm sure you will make the best out of it. As they say, the finest steel has to go through the hottest fire. And this phase 4 is that hottest fire in pilot training. This is the time when aspiring pilots really get tested. Some give up, but those who persist make it to the cockpit. How strongly we wanted to become an airline pilot is proven in this phase. Timeline to get a job depends highly upon the situation of aviation market at the time of completion of CPL. Demand for pilots is like waves. There is a spike when economy is good, and then there is a dip. Usually, any dip is recovered within 2 to 3 years. For an example, 2018 and 19 pilot shortage, any pilot that had a valid CPL and is current with his or her knowledge would have gotten a job during this period. That was the time when pilots got a job within a month also of issuance of their CPL. And then the COVID happened. We are now in the recovery phase. Soon enough, we'll see boom in aviation. Later, the cycle continues. Looking at the current growth in the industry, pilots that are starting now should be able to see good times in aviation right after their completion of training. Despite of that, to put a pin on this phase 4 of pilot training, I would recommend considering 18 to 20 months to get a job as a buffer period for the financial calculations. Let's get to the ultimate goal of an aspiring pilot, the airline cockpit. That marks the phase 5 of pilot career. Everything that an aspiring pilot has been dreaming about is a tangible reality at this point. Initially, you do type rating, learn operating procedures, go through aviation security training, do the ditching drills and all of it. Later, there is a supervised line training, then a check, and then you get released as a first officer. All of this takes about 10 to 12 months, and then officially you are an airline pilot at this point. To conclude it, from the day you start your pilot training, you can consider 3 to 4 years until you get to an airline cockpit as a pilot. Honestly, when in the cockpit of a Boeing, Airbus or any big jet for that matter, you learn something each day. As you get released as a first officer, you will be eyeing for issuance of ATPL. As you get the ATPL, you will be looking to get command upgrade, and the pursuit of career progression continues for the next step. This learning is called experience, which continues throughout your pilot career. And that's all for today's topic. If you wish to get started today, take your first step into aviation as a pilot. Sign up for CNTAA, the Pilot Ground School. Link in the description is below. And see you in the next video.